Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the brilliantly disruptive strategy that Rob and Rihanna Fenty used to literally rewrite the rules of global business. We're talking about her transition from dominating the music charts to architecting a massive corporate empire that completely changed an entire industry. Let's jump right in.
Let's start with a really stark contrast. On one hand, you've got the iconic pop star we all know. Over 250 million records sold worldwide, tying records with absolute legends. But on the other hand, you have her current era. Rihanna actually hasn't released a new studio album since 2016. And why is that? Well, because she's been incredibly busy building not just one, but two massive corporate brands.
And the sheer scale of what she's built is just staggering. Her net worth is now officially estimated at $1.4 billion. But here is the truly fascinating part about that number. Despite being the second wealthiest female musician in the world, less than 10% of that massive fortune actually comes from her music royalties. The overwhelming majority, it comes directly from her business equity.
To figure out exactly how she pulled this off, we're going to break down her playbook. We'll cover her pivot from pop star to billionaire CEO, how she disrupted a $430 billion industry, her strategy of ownership over simple endorsements, a literal marketing masterclass, and finally, the lasting legacy of the Fenty Effect. Okay, Chapter 1, Pop Star to Billionaire CEO. So, while her music career, which kicked off way back in 2005, gave her incredible global leverage in this massive funnel of attention, it was her 2017 pivot into true entrepreneurship that officially crowned her a billionaire by age 33. She clearly realized that attention is a powerful tool, sure, but it's what you build with that attention that actually creates generational wealth.
Moving to Chapter 2, Disrupting a $430 billion industry.
Just to put this into perspective, before 2017, the global cosmetics market was generating over $430 billion annually. Yet despite all that cash flowing around, legacy prestige brands were still clinging to these incredibly outdated norms. They relied heavily on Eurocentric beauty standards, offering super limited shade ranges that effectively erased women with deeper skin tones. Those women were forced to mix multiple products just to get a basic match. The industry was basically choosing to ignore a massive, glaring gap.
Well, Rihanna completely shattered that mold. The old way offered maybe 10, if you were lucky 20 shades, clustered really heavily in light to medium tones. But the Rihanna way? She launched Fenty Beauty with 40 meticulously crafted foundation shades from day one. And critically, she started the development process with the deepest skin tones first. By designing for the margins right out of the gate, she proved that radical inclusivity wasn't just the right thing to do, it was incredibly profitable. We're talking $100 million in sales in just the first 40 days.
This shockwave totally rewrote the industry's baseline expectations. It literally became known as the Fenty Effect. Suddenly, all these competing legacy brands were scrambling to expand their own shade ranges. But as the data pretty clearly shows, it wasn't out of some sudden enlightenment. It was because Fenty Beauty proved without a doubt that inclusivity drives massive market share and fierce consumer loyalty.
Which brings us to Chapter 3, Ownership over Simple Endorsements. You see, the standard celebrity playbook is pretty straightforward. Slap your name on a product line and collect a safe 5 to 10% royalty check. Now, that's good money, absolutely, but it's not billion-dollar money. Rihanna opted for the billion-dollar playbook. Instead of just taking a check, she demanded equity. She negotiated a 50-50 joint venture so she could co-own the brand and, crucially, retain creative control.
Let's break down exactly how she structured this deal. She partnered with the massive luxury conglomerate LVMH. LVMH brought the manufacturing, the high-end labs, and the global distribution network through all their Sephora stores. And what did Rihanna bring to the table to match their multi-million-dollar cash investment? Her in-kind assets. We're talking about invaluable cultural relevance, her completely authentic connection to her audience, and her massive global reach. She essentially looked at her own deficiencies, partnered with a giant who had exactly those strengths, and created an unstoppable machine.
And that leads perfectly into Chapter 4, the ultimate marketing masterclass.
With this perfect 50-50 corporate structure locked in, she unleashed a marketing strategy that was totally unheard of in prestige beauty. It was rooted entirely in shared cultural moments. And honestly, there is absolutely no better example of this than the 2023 Super Bowl halftime show. Instead of paying millions for a traditional 30-second commercial, Rihanna took a brief, silent 3-second pause mid-performance to just effortlessly blot her face with her own Fenty Invisimatte powder.
She broadcast that genuine, totally authentic moment live to 118 million viewers.
And man, the results were absolutely explosive. That single, unspoken product placement spiked brand searches by 833% instantly. Within just 12 hours of stepping off that stage, that tiny 3-second touch-up generated a staggering $5.6 million in sales. It was the ultimate proof that you really don't need a glossy, overproduced ad when the founder is the genuine embodiment of the brand.
That specific moment really reveals her core philosophy. You see, for decades, legacy beauty brands marketed aspiration, basically saying, buy this product to look like someone you're not. But Fenty marketed affirmation. Rihanna wasn't selling some fake filtered aspiration, she was selling belonging. The underlying message was simply, buy this product because it was actually made for who you already are.
Let's wrap up with Chapter 5, the Fenty Effect legacy. That profound sense of belonging hasn't just changed the cultural conversation, it is translated into historic, record-breaking corporate valuations. By leveraging this exact playbook of radical inclusivity and demanding real equity, Rihanna achieved something unprecedented. She became the very first Black woman in history to build 2 separate billion-dollar brands. Today, Fenty Beauty is valued between $1.5 and $2 billion, and her inclusive lingerie line, Savage X Fenty, hit a massive $1 billion valuation as well.
So what's the big takeaway for us in this explainer? It's Rihanna's blueprint for modern disruption. First, you have to identify a demographic that an entire industry is just blatantly ignoring. Second, build inclusivity directly into the product formulation itself, not just slap it onto the marketing campaign at the end. Third, always demand equity and ownership over simple endorsement royalties. And finally, turn your own lived experience and authenticity into your absolute greatest asset.
At its core, her staggering financial success is driven by a genuine empathy for those who have historically been left out. Like she said herself, she knows where she comes from. She proved that true power doesn't come from just playing the game as it is. It comes from actively shaping industries to actually reflect diverse, real-world realities.
Which leaves us with one incredibly exciting thought to ponder. If a $430 billion industry could blindly ignore such an obvious, massive gap for decades, what other gigantic opportunities are hiding right in plain sight right now? Where exactly is the next Fenty effect waiting to happen? Keep looking for those gaps and keep learning. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.